Redditors assemble. r/AskReddit. What are some psychology experiments with interesting results? The influence of the color red in sports. Judges were shown a video of a taekwondo match and awarded more points to the red competitor versus the blue competitor. When the colors were digitally reversed, judges awarded more points to the other, now red, competitor. Oh, yeah. Fun fact. They combat this bias with right-hand bias. Judges get 2 triggers to click to award each color a point, and the right trigger is blue, since it's been shown that people tend to apparently unconsciously favor their right. Source. I spent a few years refereeing 4 local tournaments. Wish that could somehow help the Arkansas Razorbacks SMH. Mice were put on 2 sides of a wall with a door in. Only the right mouse could open the door. Slowly, they filled the left mouse's room with water, and eventually when right mouse saw them in danger, they opened the door. However, mice that had previously been on the left side and were now on the right, mice who had previously been wetted, opened the door considerably faster, because they knew how unpleasant it was to be in the other scenario. Basically, mice have empathy. This makes me happy. I wish more posts on this were about things like this. I want to know more. Empathy is consciousness simulating consciousness. When you are talking to someone through a medium, internet, real life, you are estimating their conscious state by recursively defining your own conscious state in their terms in order to predict their future behavior. That's why mentally ill people are treated so poorly. It's hard to predict their behavior, thus dehumanizing them. Also, the more time you spend with someone, the better your simulation of their brain becomes. When a loved one dies, a replica of them lives on inside you. If you ever think, oh, mum would have really liked that, that's their consciousness running on your hardware. The car crash experiment. It demonstrated that the way investigators word a question has an immediate effect on the subject's memory of an event. It was part of a suite of studies by Elizabeth Loftus, with various other co-researchers, that began to call into question the veracity of eyewitness accounts. I took a class on human memory, and let me tell you, we don't remember anything very well, including your recollection of that class. What class? One time I participated in a paid research experiment. I was basically tricked into thinking I was drunk. I was placed in a room with 2 other people, and we were instructed to drink vodka with cranberry juice over a period of time while we socialized. After we drank, I was placed in a room where I had to read some flashing words on a computer. I felt pretty drunk at this point. When the researcher came back into the room, he gave me my car keys and said I was never actually given alcohol. He briefly told me that, because I was anticipating drinking for this experiment, that my brain had tricked me into feeling the effects of being intoxicated. I immediately snapped out of it and was completely amazed at how I felt. I've done this to younger siblings and relatives that won't shut up about wanting to drink shots. We just rub a bit of alcohol round the rim of the shot glass and fill it with water. 3 deep, and they'll start snoozing on the sofa within the hour. The chocolate martinis I make for my auntie, who gets too tipsy too easily, are basically chocolate milk with a splash of chocolate liquor. Like, the kids could probably drink them and be fine to drive home. Excuse me, sir, do you know why I jogged over and stepped in front of your Power Wheels? Solomon Ash's experiment on conformity. He set up a test wherein he would show 3 lines of different lengths to 5 or 6 individuals, I forgot the exact number, who had to state which line was the longest of the 3. The thing is, only the last individual is the participant, and the others are actors paid to answer in a specific manner. For the first few questions, they choose a correct answer, but later on they start choosing the wrong one. The participants are conflicted as to whether they will say the correct answer or conform to the wrong answer, as to not be judged by others or due to self-doubt of their own answers. In the end, most do conform. It's really interesting, since it shows how powerful conformity is in the face of doubt, up to a point that some even question their own sanity during the test. Another variation of the experiment also had interesting results. It had the same setup with 5 individuals, with the last person being the participant. However, this time some of the actors say the wrong answer while one actor says the correct one. there was an increase in participants who would choose the correct answer and avoid conformity. It shows how much doubt one can have on oneself when alone, but be brought back to self-confidence when they find outside support. Reminds me of the experiment where they taped people in a waiting room. Every time a beep occurred, everyone would stand and sit. A non-actor walks in, and after 2 beeps starts doing it as well. And it got to the point where only the outsider was the only one in the room and he keeps standing. So they brought another non-actors and they did the same thing the original non-actor was doing, even though they were now both alone and don't know why they do it. That's so cool. If you see it in the bigger picture, that's so similar to how age-old traditions stand through the test of time. Suddenly people come up with their own reasons, but never even knew the original reasons of the traditions. It is amazing. I did this experiment in my school, as a high school thesis kind of thing, and the age difference affects the results. The older the kid, the quicker they decided to change their answer. Aaron and Dutton, 1974, misattribution of arousal. Men who had just walked across bridge, either steady or unsteady, were approached by a female psychology student, posing to do a project on the effects of exposure to scenic attractions on creative expression. The men had to complete a questionnaire and write a short dramatic story about a picture she provided, and she gave them her phone number if they had more questions. Men who walked across the shaky bridge were more likely to call her up, because they misattributed the arousal from the bridge to the woman. What if I see a comedy on the first date, but hire someone to mug us outside the theater? Then it becomes a flex seal bond, cause you survived something together while high. When I get hungry, I get all grabby and excited with my wife. She calls it hungry or horny, and I suspect it works in a similar manner to this. I'm confusing my aroused hunger for sexual arousal when my wife is near me. I don't know the name of it, but apparently 2 people become closer if they survive through something together. Not even actual surviving death scenarios, but anything that has you on your toes and heart racing, like a roller coaster. Had to look it up, because I remember hearing about this one. Misattribution of arousal. Not necessarily sexual arousal, but any sort of heightened or hairline emotional state. If you're with someone, your brain may link the two. We looked at a case study of a couple who weren't that great for each other. They had fairly destructive tendencies and a good bit of argumentation, non-compromise, and tearing each other down. But they were wildly, crazy, rom-com level head over heels for each other. Their early dating included roller coaster rides, the car breaking down at 10 p.m. while it was snowing and they had to walk home miserable, the store being robbed while they were there, and a death in each family. Early dating included roller coaster rides, the car breaking down at 10 p.m. while it was snowing and they had to walk home miserable, the store being robbed while they were there, and a death in each family. Don't go giving people ideas. Looks up from taking notes. What? If you train a rat to press a lever for cocaine, and then put it in a box with only that lever, it will press that lever as much as you'll allow it. The rat will stop eating and drinking and just do cocaine. If you train a rat to press a lever for cocaine and then put it in an enriched environment, egg, other rats to play with, toys, place to explore, where it could still press the lever for cocaine, it may press the lever occasionally, but not as frequently as its counterpart in the dull environment. These findings were a big deal in the behaviorism world, because they put a lot of previous results into context and help explain the link between poverty and drug use. Split brain studies. One example. By providing differing information to each hemisphere of the brain in split brain individuals, those with a severed corpus callosum, meaning there's no communication between the 2 hemispheres, they found that people would actually physically grab their own hand with their other hand if they saw it making a mistake. Basically, each side of the brain controls one side of your body, and in split brain people you can actually make both sides display a disagreement with the other, which is insane, if you think about it. There's another similar experiment where people with split brains have one eye able to see a picture and the other eye can't see it. Then they draw the picture with one hand. While they're drawing the picture, if you ask them, they have no idea what the image they're being shown is. It's like they can't see it even though they can draw it. Also, if you give someone like this a fork and cover their left eye, they'll be able to tell you what you use it for, but not be able to recall what it's called. Then cover the other eye and they'll instantly be able to tell you that it's a fork, but will have no idea what you use it for. Weird but also interesting gas frick. I remember this one instance where one half is instructed to pick up a specific object from a pile and hand it to the other half's hand, which when prompted to explain why they were holding the object made up stories, instead of knowing the other half had been prompted to just pick it up. Research on learned helplessness is fascinating. Researchers would put dogs into shuttle boxes, long cage-like structures that the dog could move around in, and would shock the dog through the floor on one side of the box. The dog, at first, could easily escape the shock by moving to the other side of the box. Eventually, the researcher adds a wall so the dog can't escape the shocks. It just sits there, being shocked without escape. Through this, the dog learns helplessness over repeated trials and extended periods of time. Even when the wall is taken down, the dog won't walk to the other side and avoid the shocks anymore. It has become so used to the pain that it doesn't even try to escape when escape would be easy. This research has been used to explain certain aspects of human behavior, especially related to repeated experiences of abuse, addiction, and poverty. It takes a long time to get somebody out of this mindset, and is possibly one of the reasons why people get stuck in terrible situations. For everyone concerned about the dogs, this experiment was done in 1967. It's much more difficult to use animals in experiments like this, and this particular one would be considered unethical now. For dogs, probably. Shocking rats for research isn't uncommon, though, as long as there's a valid scientific reason for it. I haven't heard of recent learned helplessness research, so I'm not sure if people are still doing animal testing with it at this point. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.